gang, we're going to begin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this installment of the Jess Usher Memorial Lecture Series. This lecture program is part of the ABAC Arts and Culture Series and is named for Dr. Jess Usher, a professor of history that had a tremendous impact on his students, his colleagues, and the community at large. It is in his honor that we have named this lecture series. Friends, I don't see Tommy on head. There she is. Dr. Ken Blanchard of Cornell University, the author of over 70 works on leadership philosophy, once upon a time said, quote, "Today's leaders must be partners with their people. They no longer can lead solely based on positional power," unquote. Our speaker tonight is going to present us with an elegantly nuanced analysis of this basic premise. Quote, "Servant leadership is important because it fosters an environment where people feel valued and supported, leading to higher levels of trust, engagement, and collaboration. Best leaders are those who lead by example, demonstrating humility, empathy, and a commitment to the growth of those around them," unquote. Tatyana Pashnyak has over 26 years of experience in K-12 and baccalaureate level education. She earned a bachelor's degree in middle grades education, graduating magna cum laude, and a master's in business education from the University of West Georgia. Additionally, she earned her MBA in organizational management from Eastern University in 2023. Just this year, Professor Pashnyak graduated from South Georgia Leads program established to create, quote, "a leadership immersion for citizens throughout South Georgia designed to facilitate awareness of issues that are essential to the future of the region," unquote. She is also an enthusiastic traveler, having visited all the continents except Antarctica, which is on her list of things to do. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Tatyana Pashnyak.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And, sorry I caused such a ruckus, with, trying to move the presentation, which is a traditional setting, to having to do online because I got sick and I'm not in any condition to travel. So, and also thank you for putting up with my voice today and red nose and sniffling. So I hope you enjoyed. This is one of my favorite topics. I want to acknowledge, there are several people who are working so hard for the last couple of days to make this happen. I know that James worked, on that, and also Will, and I'm sure there were other people that do not even know they were doing that. But of course, silver lining that some of my colleagues were able to join. I would say, perfect example of a certain leader, Dr. Portilla, who has been, such an inspiration for me, is here. So otherwise she wouldn't be able to join. So there's silver lining in that. And, if you have a stock in Kleenex, I am contributing to your dividends. So, all right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see it okay? Can you see it on?
Now we can.
Okay. So let me just provide a very quick overview what we'll do tonight. I want to go over the servant leadership, what it means to the personal and organizational impact, specifically employee engagement, satisfaction, organizational performance, and the overall culture of that organization. So we'll talk about specific leadership practices that are truly impactful. We'll actually look at some research studies that document that, and we'll look at a couple of case studies that contrast the servant leader compared to traditional leader. And so by the end of this presentation, I hope every single one of you who is listening here, which I'm truly grateful, you decided to come on Thursday evening to listen to my presentation, that you will gain something that will make you a better person, and then through you, you'll be able to serve somebody else. And so I want to lead with this quote. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And I hope that resonates with you. That's from MLK. I want to start with a story of narcissists. Everybody probably heard the story, or if not, you have heard the term a narcissist. So there was a figure in Greek mythology, and his name was Narcissus. And so he was this very handsome, young, skillful hunter. And he was always in the woods. He was hunting. He was really perfecting his skills there. And so sounds like, somebody we want, as a great businessman. However, even though he was very handsome and very skillful, he was very cruel and was not interested in other people around him. And supposedly, based on the mythology, his mother was told that he would have a long life if he never recognized himself. So if he never focused on himself, he would enjoy life. But unfortunately, one day while he was hunting, he was thirsty, stopped at the spring to drink some water, and then he bent over, started drinking, and then saw a reflection of himself in the spring. And he saw just how brave and handsome and skillful he is, and he pretty much fell in love with himself, and he was just so obsessed with his own image that he just couldn't move away. And so he ended up dying there, still staring at his reflection and to admire his reflection. And so supposedly the flower, you may know it as a daffodil, but it's, if you, avid gardener, you probably know it's narcissus. And by the way, those of you students taking English classes, you may read the Picture of Dorian Gray in some of those classes, and that's the novel that actually refers to that story. So, as you can see, that anytime we say somebody is narcissistic or somebody is a narcissist, it's based on this tale. And we typically know that people who are narcissists are probably self-obsessed, self-infatuated, self-concerned, self-promoting. You see that? Self. And they typically know-it-all people who do not need anybody. They know everything. And so we typically don't like people like that. And so I truly believe that any type of the self-obsession in any way is not good to the personal health or organizational health, because then it's counterproductive for us helping each other and growing together. And so the opposite of that is humility. And so I strongly believe that humility is vital to us, to our flourishing throughout our lives as both individuals and the employees and the leaders. I believe that humility is really a key characteristic of servant leadership. Towards the end of the presentation, I will go through 10 separate characteristics, but humility is really the one kind of brings everything together. So C.S. Lewis is typically quoted that he said that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And so, yes, of course, it's a helpful definition. But if you have read anything by C.S. Lewis, you would know that he said more than that. So here's what he actually said beyond that. So I want you to listen to the distinction between there's the short kind of cliff notes and versus the full. So in his book, Pondering Principles, C.S. Lewis said, "Do not imagine that if you meet a really humble man, He will be what most people call humble nowadays. He will not be a sort of greasy, smarmy person who is always telling you that, of course, he is nobody. Probably all you will think about him is that he seems like a cheerful, intelligent chap who took a real interest in what you said to him. If you do dislike him, it will be because you feel a little envious of anyone who seems to enjoy life so easily. So let's pause here for a second. Can you think of any leaders that would fit this definition? You don't have to respond, but I want you to think of some examples, and then as we go through the presentation, you will start seeing those things kind of clicking into place. You will say, yes, this characteristic and that characteristic, and this is what I want to emulate in those people because they're so good. And we said, when we have the self-evaluation, self-focus, the opposite of that is self-forgetfulness. In this example, that, the quote by C.S. Lewis, as you can see that this person who is a servant leader is not going to be thinking about being humble. They're not going to be thinking about humility. The key point here, they're not going to be thinking about themselves at all. So do you see the distinction there? It's not just, I'm nobody. It's just, not even considering trying to put yourself before others. So, as you can see, humility is really self-forgetfulness. It's not self-infatuation. Hopefully I can get through it. Worst case scenario, I have very detailed slide. So, you may not think that you are that prideful, arrogant person. You probably are not. But all of us can examine ourselves and figure out an area of life where we can do better with humility. Like, for example, think about your routine in the morning. When you wake up, you open your eyes, and who do you think about first? You're probably going to think about yourself. Like, what are you going to do that day? What you should do to make sure your schedule is not messed up. How can you be productive and efficient? And it's nothing wrong about, kind of doing the week checklist. It's all about being efficient and effective. But if that's the only thing you do for the rest of the day, then you probably have a problem because you're not really considering anybody else around you. So before we get too far into that, I wanted to give you a quick overview of this history of servant leadership. It was coined by Robert Greenleaf in his essay, Servant as a Leader, in 1970. Mr. Greenleaf actually worked at AT&T for 38 years, where he eventually became Director of Management Research. And one of his famous quotes is that I'm in the business of growing people. So I see a lot of students, and so I encourage you to think about that. Do you want to be in the business of just growing piles of money, or do you want to be in the business of growing people, being supportive of others, but also growing yourself? So Greenleaf actually developed servant leadership theory after, he read the novel. Some of you may have heard of that, Journey to the East, which describes a group of guys on a mythical journey, and they have servant Leah, who they sustains them with spirit and song. And it's primarily based on Eastern beliefs. So if you do some research, you will see that For example, in Japan, many organizations are still very focused on servant leadership, and it's really, goes, many centuries back, where when leaders were to be in service of their country and people. And so, in this story, Leo turned out to be a great and noble leader who was not really a servant at all, but he was there to support his people. Um, and so here's what Greenleaf wrote to differentiate traditional and servant leader. The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant first to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are being served. The best test, and difficult to administer, is, do those served grow as persons? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? And what is the effect on the least privileged in society? Will they benefit, or at least not be further deprived? So you see, even in that, there is a direct connection. It's not just a belief of being a servant leader. It has a direct impact on the personal lives and also the organizations. So servant leaders focus on the growth and well-being of their people. And also they care about the communities and serve their communities. And so typically when we think of the traditional leadership, if you look at the graphic to the right, you have the leader at the top, kind of king on the throne, and then everybody else kind of the top down. Servant leadership is the leader at the bottom. Really listening and supporting and making sure that all people are doing well. So I want to also to make sure that you understand that what servant leader is not, because when you think of a servant leadership, you may be thinking that is somebody who is just subservient and they just bend over backwards and they will do all kind of crazy things. They will not. So here are 5 things. Servant leader is not submissive. So as you can see, the servant leaders make decisions with intention. They consider other people, other opinion, other expertise, and they know when to step in and when to involve others instead of just relying on their own pride and arrogance. But it doesn't mean just somebody insists and they will just go ahead and agree to that. So it's a big difference between being submissive and being intentional. They are not paternalistic. Servant leaders are not those kindly parents kind of pat on your head, okay, good job, but instead they provide concrete feedback. They are partners. They're making sure that everybody is moving forward so the entire organization benefits. They are not sacrificial. So it doesn't mean that servant leaders would sacrifice their beliefs, their values, a sense of self, just because somebody else insists on doing that. They will stand their ground. They will not bend ethics, but when they interact with others, they always do that with grace and understanding, and allowing others to speak and consider their beliefs. So servant leaders do not give up control. Servant leaders do facilitate people's performance, goals, and achievements, but they do not just completely give up control. Instead, they empower people to do better. It doesn't mean they just let people run around and do whatever they want. And the last point here, that servant leaders are definitely not weak. In fact, servant leaders are probably much stronger because they are really building their people towards much greater potential that traditional leaders can ever try to achieve. And so they're not just flexing power muscles. I'm the leader and so I can. Instead, they're quietly helping people to do better. And so that in turn leads to better organizations and more satisfied workers. All right, so self-forgetfulness. I already started doing that, but I want to continue my thoughts on that. Um, there was the article in New York Times titled "The Trouble with Self-Esteem," and all of us, have heard that for the last couple of decades, probably, all about self-esteem. And having taught about K-12 and the college level, I have seen drastic changes where at the K-12 level, we do not want our kids to experience failure. We will do anything. So even if the child is not able to do something, instead of helping them learn and guiding them and figuring out why they're struggling, good job, high five, you got it. And so we're just kind of sweeping it under the rug. So we're building the self-esteem, but there's no foundation for that. And so this author reviewed several research studies and actually found that high self-esteem, or I should say overinflated self-esteem, cost our country a lot more in various social problems. A lot of the domestic situation, organizational issues. So now I want to make a caveat here that that of course I'm not saying that we should tolerate low esteem. That we have a huge problem obviously with mental health, and so if somebody has low esteem, they need to be helped and supported. But not just give them false hope. They need to be empowered. So that's where servant leaderships comes in. And we just need to make sure we avoid that arrogance that leads to dangerous situations. You're probably sitting there, especially the students, you're saying, well, I'm not a leader, so, why is it important? Well, first of all, you're probably going to be a leader at some point in your life. But remember also that you do not have to be a formal leader to still be a leader in some other capacity. Leadership is really about influence, and all of us want to be influencing others. So you may not have a formal leadership position, but you do want to have influence on your family. So if you wanted that expensive Christmas gift, you want to influence your parents probably to get you something, right? Or, pay your tuition. If you want to go buy a car, you want to influence that car salesperson so you can get a better deal, and so on. And so if you want to influence with others, remember that you are not the secret sauce to your leadership. It's about others. It's your ability to have influence with others does not depend on your ability to influence those people, but connecting with those people first. Let them see the genuine person you are. If you're not able to do that, then you're not going to be influencing them, not in a positive way, at least. And I don't have time to read a quote by Helen Keller, but, Helen Keller did say there's joy in self-forgetfulness. Okay, so what are 6 ways that you can focus on other people? Because that's how you get their attention, and that's how you're able to influence people. That's how you get their respect. So you need to really genuinely show interest in people. Not just, put in a show that, you're interested, but, really find ways to show that you're truly interested in what they have to say. You have to smile. And again, one of the, my pet peeves is just, I cannot stand when people just do that a tooth smile, or just kind of, they just kind of bury their lips, and, that's not a smile. Learn the power of genuine smile. When you look at somebody and really your soul shines through your eyes, that's genuine smile. Remember people's names. It's very important to all of us to be recognized. And so try your best to get to know your people. Be a good listener. Many times we interrupt each other. There was statistics I just seen a little bit, maybe just a couple of weeks ago, that on average we only listen for 5 seconds. Count to 5. That's 5 seconds. So many times somebody starts saying something and we jump in with our experience, with our comments. So you need to learn to just listen to people, and of course practice active listening, pay attention to what people are saying, and encourage instead of talking about yourself and switching the situation. So, let's say, met somebody and starts like, oh, I've been sick this week. So instead of saying, well, what was wrong with you? And, how can I help? And said, oh, but I was also sick 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, the focus switches to you. And that's not what servant leaders do. People get, really upset when they're trying to tell you something important and you turn the tables and pretty much focus on yourself instead. Always consider other person's interests. Do not bore them to death with your own thoughts and interests and beliefs. Listen to them. Comment on what they like. And the last one, make sure to make that person feel important. Find a way. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of time and, a lot of practice. And you may not be able to do it right away. But do your best to make certain comments, offer help, to figure out, depending on situation, how to make the person feel important, recognize their accomplishments. And so, that's, really, the 6 ways that, we can influence other people. And by the way, that's from Dale Carnegie, from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. So, as you can see, again, we're coming back to the other-centered, the self-forgetful, not self-centered. So how do we, pursue this humility? So there are 4 realities. Humility is not fast. Remember that rule, think before you act, think before you speak. Well, that's what it means. Humility is not fast. When something happens, or we're in a conversation, it doesn't have to be anything major. Your immediate reaction is to comment on something about yourself. Comment about your own skills, about your own abilities, about your own experience. And, then all of a sudden, you're turning to that self-focused person. Instead, what you need to do is think slowly, listen to that person, allow yourself to process your thoughts before you say anything else. Make it intentional. Do not just open your mouth and start talking. And also, the humble demeanor does not indicate a humble heart. You have the, rabbit looks, like just a rabbit, but, has a lot, they can be deceitful. That it doesn't mean that's humble heart. You may probably met, some people who are trying to persuade you to buy something, like maybe the, famous kind of cliche, the car salesperson. They're trying to push a lemon on you, and they're smiling and they're protecting your best friend, and they're gonna give you the best deal. And you have done your research and you know that they are lying through their teeth. So in order to be the servant leader, you really need to be genuine. You have to be earnest. You have to focus on others, and be humble. Truly respect others. Listen to others. Then the last 2, humility is consistent. If you're not able to practice humility across all areas of life every day, then it's going to be difficult. It's going to yo-yo effect. we're all humans, of course, and even the best servant leaders are not able to be 100% perfect at all times. Everybody messes up. But if you genuinely want to be a servant leader, then you try to be humble in all areas of life. So you do it at work, but are you doing it at the restaurant? So maybe you go to the restaurant and the kitchen got your order wrong and you're screaming at the restaurant waiter. That's not humility. Are you humble at the ticket counter at that airport? Flight got canceled, you were late to your meeting, and you were screaming at that. That's not being human, especially if you do it in front of your coworkers, and they see you putting on this humility show at work, and you're doing everything, but then that ugly side comes out. Are you humble with your family members? Is there one area in your life that you really can do better? Because if you want to achieve true humility, you really need to be humble and you need to be consistent. And the last part that I want to focus on is that humility does not mean self-deprecation. So let's say somebody gives you a compliment. A lot of times people will do something like, oh, stop, really, I'm not that good, I'm not that great, don't, thank me, that's okay. But at the same time, we're smiling ear to ear and we feel so good about our accomplishment. No, that's not humility, that's just a show. So the true humility is to quietly thank the person. So if you have done something, acknowledge, accept that thanks, but also always try to find a way to also acknowledge others. So there could be another team member who helped, and so be sure to spotlight others. So the focus is not only on you. If you're the only one participating, just quietly acknowledge without false pretense. So, we're in a Bible Belt, so, I decided to throw in some quotes, especially, there's so much about the, humility in the Proverbs. So the first one I want to look at Proverbs 11:2. When pride comes, that comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. So I'm just looking at the screen is like, I'm wondering that do you always want to be the smartest person in the room? Is it important for you to be always right? Do you feel bad if you're not right and somebody else got the right answer? Do you always try to say, me, I know how to do this? Or do you allow yourself to slow down and really listen to others before you come up with an answer? I'm giving an example here of a physician who made a commitment to never make a diagnosis until he had asked the patient at least 20 questions because of the previous mistake made when he was rushed. When you go to the doctor, they're trying to get you out very quickly because, they have to make money. But this physician decided that no matter what happens, no matter how hectic the clinic is, he would just listen and ask questions. And, he would most of the time already rule out the diagnosis, but would still listen. And what he was saying is that, there have been quite a few instances when he thought he knew the diagnosis, and all of a sudden, just like that, the patient said something, and it was like, oh my goodness, if I did not go to that question, I would have misdiagnosed that patient. So it's very important also in business problems. So it's important, and I'm using business examples because, I'm teaching in the School of Business, but it applies to really any organization, any setting. So you do not have to be always right, but you need to be willing to ask those questions to make sure that you don't get yourself, in a situation you literally put the foot in your mouth. The other one I want to look is The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man is he who listens to counsel. So never, ever ignore the support and feedback of others, because that's creative synergy. That's one of the things that I love working in the Stafford School of Business. We're truly a family, and we talk to each other and you know share ideas. Right now we're registering for classes and many sections are closed, and so we're trying to figure out what can the student take, and one individual person may overlook something, but we're always watching out for each other and trying to say, oh, how about this, how about that. And it's important if we really want to serve well. So always remember that somebody gives you feedback. Think about how you receive that. Do not bristle just because somebody criticizes, even though it may be hurtful at the time. You might just learn something from that. Okay. The next two I'll read quickly. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold this humble in spirit. And the other one, before destruction, a man's heart is haughty, but humility comes before honor. So again, we want influence, but do you really want that position, power, prestige? Because if you're only hungry for influence, you probably find yourself in some kind of leadership position where you're empowering, have prestige. But if that's the only thing you're looking for, then you probably have sabotaged yourself and you will not have actual influence. And the final thing, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility considers others better than yourself. So each of you should look not only to your own interest, but also to the interest of others. So I want you to take just a minute and consider, what is a self-centeredness within your own life? Is there an area where you really can do better and focus on others instead of nursing your own fears and maybe offenses and things like that? So maybe if you have been arguing with somebody, maybe you need to eat that humble pie and go and apologize and revive that relationship. Well, there are different areas. And so I mentioned the impact on organizations. So here are some research studies that actually document that. So, for example, employee performance, there have been significant findings. There were two studies that I found, and I just did a very cursory check of studies. There are tons of studies. These were just, a few. Employee resilience, organizational performance, innovation, collaboration, knowledge sharing among employees, and there are many others. And so, one example of the servant leader would be Herb Kelleher, who was a co-founder of Southwest Airlines, and he's always, often cited as a successful servant leader. And so, under his leadership, Southwest was known for a very employee-centered culture. And he once said, "I have always believed that the best leader is the best server. And if you're a servant, by definition, you are not controlling. We try to value each person individually and to be cognizant of them as human beings, not just people who work for our company." So I want to do a couple of case studies with you. So I was afraid I'm not have time, but it looks like we're okay on time. If you go ahead and get your phones out and scan the QR code so you're ready to respond after we read the case study. So a mid-sized tech company, TechServe, is experiencing rapid growth and needs to expand its customer support team. The company's CEO, Sarah, is a servant leader who focuses on empowering her employees, encouraging collaboration, and ensuring the well-being of her team. As the customer base grows, the support team starts feeling overwhelmed. Recognizing this, Sarah holds several meetings with the team to gather feedback on their challenges. She focuses on listening and understanding the root causes of stress. So here are some of her actions. So she encourages open communication, asking what her team needs in terms of resources. She implements flexible work schedule, increases team size for better workload management, offers professional development so employees can improve their skills and do better with customer issues. And then she empowers team leads to make those decisions autonomously because she trusts their judgment while she's there for support. So what do you think would be the outcomes of this leader? I see several people are joining, so if you don't have Padlet, it won't take you but a minute. And when you get in, there is the plus sign, like yellow circle with a plus, and that's how. So thank you, Shai. The customer basis continues to grow, and the employees still enjoy working and feel less stress. Good job. Right? So another person says she anticipates that the team will respond in a positive way to the idea she implements. She hopes that outcome will be her team gets work done efficiently and effectively with good attitudes and less stress. Yes. Employees will feel respected and uplifted. This will boost productivity overall. Employees will be happy at work, and this will increase customer satisfaction as well. Excellent. Is there anybody else writing? Should I wait another few seconds? I can come back to. Oh, there's another one. A healthy, growing business with people that feel valued. This will improve productivity. Excellent. And if you're still writing, you can go ahead and do it. I'll just go ahead and switch, and I'll display it again in a little bit. Get back to my. All right. Now let's look at the case study number 2. So the same company. Now the CEO, Mark, is more of the top-down traditional leader. He believes in driving performance through tight control and clear authority. As the customer base grows and the customer support team becomes overwhelmed, Mark calls for an urgent meeting. He directs the team to work longer hours, increase their productivity without consulting them on the challenges or seeking input on potential solutions. So he implements strict monitoring to track employee performance, emphasizing quotas for everyone over individual well-being. Sounds like, Wells Fargo and creating those, fake accounts. Mm-hmm. He does not offer additional resources. Instead, he expects the existing teams to just figure out how to increase workload, discourages employee feedback. He just wants to follow rules and drive results. Who cares about the feelings and feedback? And the culture shifts towards a more competitive, hierarchical environment where individuals pretty much fight over each other to try to get ahead. So let's see. Let me check real quick if anybody else posted. Yes, looks like everybody else posted on business case study number 1. So let me go ahead and open business case study number 2. So those of you who are already logged in to Padlet, you will be able to respond to this one faster. So what would be the potential outcomes for this organization? Oops, sorry, I closed it. There we go. All right. More than likely, the employees will prioritize speed over quality. Work will become sloppy. Yeah, quality will go down. Yes. The customer service will go down, and yes. So he wants immediate results, but the harshness will not lead to positive results. Instead, employees can be stressed out, overwhelmed. Employees will feel taken advantage of. Start looking. So he's gonna look. So he's gonna lose the most important resource any company has. I know Dr. Ellis is teaching the human resource management, and that, we always tell students HR is so important because people are the most important asset, because it takes so long to train. If you lose good people, you're in trouble. Let's see. Business will collapse. Very much possible. Yes. Let's see. Work will not be done, and they will fear him, not respect. Excellent points. Thank you so much for everybody participating in this. I appreciate you. All right. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. All right. So remember what I mentioned is your 10 key characteristics that we talked very much with a focus on humility. But if you really dissect what humility is, that's what we can now separate into 10 characteristics. So if you want to be a servant leader, then listen to what Larry Spears wrote in 1992 article. Servant leadership seeks to involve others in decision making. It is strongly based in ethical and caring behavior. It enhances the growth of workers while improving the caring and quality of organizational life. And he was the same person who identified the 10 characteristics. And you see different characteristics, but this is really the one, as was mentioned earlier, my MBA is in organizational management. So this is the topic that's very near and dear to my heart. And so I've done my capstone project for MBA on this. And so I found Mr. Spears to be his list was really my favorite. So listening. A commitment to listening intently to others, coupled with periods of reflection. Empathy. An effort to understand, emphasize with, and accept others. Healing. A focus on helping others overcome emotional wounds and aid in the search of wholeness. Empower them, help them, support them. Don't just ground them when they are already struggling. Awareness, general awareness and self-awareness, which contribute to an understanding of issues related to power, ethics, and values. So be aware of your employees, but also be aware of your shortcomings and work to improve yourself. Persuasion. So it's not about just yelling at somebody or demanding things, but you can convince somebody very quietly because you present arguments that make sense and are based on something that's really makes sense to those people, and probably based on their input as well. Conceptualization. Think beyond just day-to-day realities. Dream big and encourage your employees to do the same. Foresight. Learn the lessons from the past, the realities of the present, and the likely consequence of this decision for the future. So really see the big picture. Stewardship. Behave with understanding that one has been entrusted with running the organization. Well, not the organization, could be your family, could be your team that you're working with on a school project. Depends where you are. But you have been entrusted, and you can do something better for the good of the society, the team, your family, organization, and so on, where you are. Commitment to the growth of people. People have an intrinsic value beyond their intangible contributions as workers. And so you need to have a strong commitment to the growth of each individual and build a community. You really need to work hard to create a true community within your family, within your organization, the school, maybe a particular class you're in, program, and so on. If you want to learn more, I'm teaching the Management 4000 Leadership and Ethics. It's online, so if you have any plans to travel this summer, so you can do it from anywhere. Have a CRN, and as you can see, this course focuses on different leadership types, theories of leadership, and so on. And I use case studies in my classes quite a bit. So it's going to be a fun class, and I think about half of the seats are already gone. So if you want this class, you probably want to register quickly. So before I go to the last slide with my contact information, any questions or thoughts?
Question?
Go ahead.
Well, if that's the extent of the questions, if there are no questions, again, I would like to thank Professor Tatyana Pashnyak for her presentation. Let's give a round of applause for his done.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. And if you have questions or thoughts, my contact information is on the screen. You email me. I am Stafford School of Business. I am based in Bainbridge. I'm the only full-time faculty of business on Bainbridge campus. So thank you again for everybody making it happen. I'm deeply grateful. So thank you so much. And everybody have a great evening.